starting with Kern County Sheriff's Office.
Sergeant Anton for the Kern County Sheriff's Department. For East area, we had 1,661 calls for service. 641, 6 of those were in Rosamond. We had 41 arrests in the East area, and 23 of those were in Rosamond. A couple things. CCWs are now available to be done online. Should help for convenience for people. We did a search warrant in regards to a bunch of our shootings. We did come up with some guns, so that investigation is still going on. The substation is officially open as of September 13th.
Yes.
We'd like to thank a couple of businesses in town for their support. Carl's Hardware supplied cement and equipment to put up the sign. And Sister supplied coffee and snacks for the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Good.
Which was a lot of fun.
What's that?
It was a lot of fun.
Okay, any questions for Sergeant Anton?
So half the calls were for Rosamond alone, or half the arrests was Rosamond alone.
Wow.
Terrible.
And that was 23 arrests? So,
23 arrests in Rosamond
okay.
last month.
Increase from last month?
Yes. I think it was 16 or 18 a month before.
Okay.
Oh, yes, last month.
California Highway Patrol Lieutenant John Williams.
Good evening. So first I want to introduce you to one of my new sergeants, Sergeant Hunt. He came up here from Victorville area, so officially he's in charge of my new Kern resident post, but he's going to be doing dual duty as calls come up. You know what's interesting is I look at our statistics, and for the highway patrol, for all the areas we cover, we had 43 arrests. Rosamond, we had 24, which is about the same as the Sheriff's Department. I would say, though, I have been throwing more resources into Rosamond. I'm sure you all continue to see them.
Yes, thank you.
Which probably does explain why our arrests are up a little bit more in Rosamond, as well as our stolen vehicle recoveries are up a little bit more in Rosamond, too, just because we've been sending the resources here. And if you're seeing the two-man units that are working up here, what those are is our training cars, because we got 3 new officers out of the academy, and so we're training them. So right now they're getting some training here. We're going to send them to Bakersfield, get them some more training, and then bring them back. So that's what you're seeing when you see the two-man cars. To go over some stats for the California Highway Patrol for our little region right here in East Kern, we wrote 1,650 citations. I couldn't narrow that down to Rosamond, but I'm sure it's going to be very high. But for other calls for service, we had 4 reckless driving calls, 4 hit and run collisions, total of 17 collisions, 11 loose animal calls. It's kind of interesting. Most of them are pit bulls. And we had a couple of abandoned vehicles that we went and handled. And that's it. Any questions?
Was most of the majority of the arrests here in Rosamond, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, 24 out of 43. And 43 I'm talking about Mojave, Boron, Tehachapi, Inyo, Kern, Ridgecrest area. So 43 total, and 24 of those were here. But again, I want to clarify, I've sent more cars here for training, as well as I had some overtime that we had some grants that we needed to spend the rest of the hours, and so I was able to dedicate it here, and I'm sure you guys all have seen it. But that's what I contribute those additional arrests for from our agency.
John, do you have the ability to break that out by residents versus people that are just in the area?
No.
No.
No, when we do our demographics and our tracking, we don't track. We track age and gender and race and things like that, and the reasons for the stops, but we don't track the location of where they live. That's probably coming soon. There's something that's happening called a RIPA board, and what they're doing is they're adding more under legislation. They're going to have us track more things in the future. So in the future, we might even have that data. I don't know.
Okay, any other questions for Lieutenant Williams? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Kern County Fire Department. Kern County Supervisor. John, I'm sure you've got a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, the main thing that I have is, as you all, I'm sure, are aware, this upcoming Tuesday is going to be the cannabis vote to either regulate and tax or ban. So the Mojave Veterans Station is going to be open for remote testimony. So I highly recommend that if you would like to say something to the Board of Supervisors, it will be open. The meeting starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. So you can go over to the Mojave Veterans Hall. It's on 15580 O Street there in Mojave. And the meeting does start at 9. So make sure you get there maybe a little bit before 9. And we'll have all the equipment set up. And depending on how many people want to speak, you don't need to go down to Bakersfield for this meeting. So that's really the main thing. I wanted everyone to be aware that Mojave Station, that Mojave Veterans Hall will be open for that.
Gerald, you're still going to that?
No, I'm not, I'm way under the weather. I got doctor's appointments tomorrow.
And
Like to.
should you decide to go to Bakersfield, get there early, because there's now a security, you have to pass through security stuff, and it's going to be a full house. So if you do want to actually make the trip down to Bakersfield, I would recommend trying to get to the county administrative office by 8:30.
Okay. Anyone from Representative Lackey's office? Rosamond Community Watch is going to be here tonight. Rosamond Community Services District? Do you have anything, John?
Yeah, they talked at their meeting on Tuesday night about funding parks through a tax or through an assessment. And they had an expert there advising them what they could and couldn't do to raise funds for the parks. In 3 weeks, they're going to vote on it. So we have it all up, the whole meeting up on YouTube, so anybody that's really interested can hear the expert explain taxes versus assessments. And that's really all they spent the 2.5 hours talking about.
Okay, Rosamond Foundation?
No update.
Rosamond Chamber of Commerce?
I just have 2 items. It's tentative, we've not had the final confirmation. There's supposed to be a dedication of the solar lights on December 1st, but we've not got the confirmation from the county whether that's still a go or not. So, maybe. Also on December 2nd is the Rosamond Parade of Lights. The applications are up on the chamber website, the chamber Facebook page. For anybody that wants to sign up for the Parade of Lights. And that's about all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Jack? Okay. Rosamond Youth Football and Cheer? Don't see anyone here. Southern Kern Unified School District?
They gave out 17 Pride Awards last night. These are employees that other employees recommend for this award. They gave a report on the Measure H bond sales. That's been completed. They get a high rating, so a low interest rate. And they increased Mr. Weinstein's salary and officially named him superintendent. Even though he came from college and even though he was a professor, when he came into the K through 12 system, he had to complete another certificate. So in July, he did complete that. And so now the school board officially named him superintendent instead of chief administrative officer. And that's about it.
Any questions? Hamlet Valley citizens for the responsible use of water.
Yeah, not too much to report. The reservoirs are all pretty full, as you could well imagine from the good water year we had. There's a lot of predictions, a wide variety of predictions of what is going to happen in the future next year as far as rainfall and precipitations. Take your pick of whatever those are. But December 1st is when the state will announce what their allocation is going to be for the upcoming year. So they expect it to be fairly high, they would hope. As far as Watermaster goes, they're still working on picking an attorney to represent the organization. They've narrowed it down to 2. They're going to have a meeting next week. There's hopefully going to be a vote, and it does have to be, as all votes of that 5-member board have to be unanimous. It has to be unanimous. So it'll be interesting to see if they are able to come up with a solution next week or sometime hopefully in the near future. But, so it's proceeding along. That's about it.
Do you have any information on the Water Reclamation District or WRD thing that you're talking about?
I don't personally know. I don't know much about that.
Supposedly that's coming online soon. And I just saw something in passing in the paper about it, a little short article.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that. I'll look into it.
Did you turn the page? The rest of it was on the other page.
It's more than one page. I can't, oh, maybe change. I can't turn it that way.
Yeah, I don't know if they're
Okay,
set
so
one
just-
up or what. I mean, you know,
There's supposedly something has been set up and they're supposed to begin it, and the way it was made out to be is that it will go a long way toward helping the valley here meet its water needs.
well, there's been talk for a long time, you know, a lot of the rainfall or rainwater and so on, runoff and everything goes basically out to the ocean. And so that's probably what that is about. I mean, there's been talk for some time, how can we reclaim that water and then turn around and process it and reuse it, so. But I haven't heard, I'm looking into that, I hadn't heard about that specific.
Okay, anyone from Edwards Air Force Base? Okay, is there anyone else that would like to do a presentation under this section? Okay, let's move on. Guest speakers, we have none scheduled for today. Anyone have a community announcement? Okay. Public comment period? Yes.
Albert Ganton with Keller Williams Realty. Just wanted to give everybody a brief real estate update for Rosamond. For September, we had 34 sales, home sales here in Rosamond. The average sales price did drop a little bit, about 4.63%, down to an average sales price of $225,601. It looks like that is actually due to smaller homes selling on average, because the average price per square foot is still up. And we see a trend, pretty strong trend of a steady increase in price per square foot. So values are still going up steadily, but the square footage is just fluctuating up and down. Earlier this year, we had a large jump in square footage size. Not really sure what that was from. It could be due to the new homes being built and being sold. But overall, the local market is pretty steady as far as activity, with about 34 sales, and prices are continuing to go up as far as averages. And time on market is down to about 20 days for the average sale.
Albert,
Yes.
what's the inventory of,
For the whole AV or just for Rosamond?
for Rosamond?
For Rosamond, we're right around 45. So we've got about 45 listings available. We've got about 30 or so that are pending. And then we, have some close and then some come on the market constantly. So it's an ever-changing number.
Yes.
So the crosswalk that goes across from the Toms to Taco Bell to the high school, has there ever been any discussion as far as trying to put some kind of flashing lights or something to notify vehicle drivers that there's someone in that crossway? At night you can't see anything. In the morning when the kids are going to school, cars are oblivious to those kids trying to cross the road. I'm just worried, someone's going to get hit. Has that ever been addressed? You guys
It's on my list of little projects that I have, and I was going to talk about that tonight because I have some concerns about that very crosswalk, because I have seen a couple of people come very close to being hit, and the drivers of the vehicles are just totally blind to them. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's driving into the morning sun.
I mean, it's a big problem at night because there's hardly any light in there. So unless the person that's crossing the street is paying attention, they're going to get hit. And then obviously the problem's going to be highlighted in the fatality. Obviously, you don't want that. It could be something as simple as installing a solar panel that can power bright lights. When they're coming, push the button just like a crosswalk. It'll beep, notify oncoming traffic. Something.
Yeah, the city of Glendale has something very similar to that down in their downtown area there, where there's a couple of mid-block crosswalks, and it sets off a series of flashing amber lights in the roadway, as well as on a arch type thing that goes over the street. And yes, John.
Bill, if I can speak, in Mojave on Business Route 58, there is such a thing that's there. Zach Schwibner's office helped us with get that thing squared away. So if you guys were able to arrange a meeting with county roads, maybe somebody with their office, I'm willing to attend that meeting and add input. I can, between now and that time period, I can pull statistics on what we have for that area. And at least if we have a meeting, CHP can go in that meeting and at least help provide some sort of data.
Okay.
I know Lancaster's got quite a few of those crossings and really nice and visible.
I know that our office would be happy to try to set up be part of that and get that going. Road.
Can you add the other end of
Yeah, we
regard to
need
that
some
too?
of that, something like that towards, going towards base.
By Gateway
Private
Apartments?
gateway
Over by
apartments.
Gateway?
It's horrible.
Yeah,
Somebody's gonna get killed. And the kids run out in front of you though.
yeah,
So, and there's no light at all.
no.
Okay, so you're not talking about United, then you're talking about something
Gateway
that's...
Apartments going towards United.
Going
down
towards
Roosevelt
United.
Boulevard. In between the
By the
liquor store.
plaza,
What's that?
by the plaza, where Ramones is at and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
To his apartments right there. And the trailer park back there. It's bad. There's no light.
and you really gotta pay attention, because if you don't, you're gonna hit someone.
Okay.
It is legal to cross there. It has to be, it's only illegal in two.
Right. Because they just run out, because it's quicker for them to get to the store,
There just has to be
It's legal
something.
for them to cross right there?
Yes.
Yeah,
It is?
but there has to be lighting, maybe.
There gotta be, some type of
Why
light.
if there's no crosswalk, I guess I'm stupid, why if there's no crosswalk, would that be a legal thing?
So you can cross any roadway that you need to, as long as it's not between two controlled intersections. So if you have two controlled intersections, in other words, you have a light here and a light here, and crosswalks, that's jaywalking going in between there. But if you have a long stretch, for example, Rosamond Boulevard from Sierra Highway down, you can cross anywhere you want.
Yeah, but aren't
there's no
you-
designation.
Aren't you referring to 15th up to,
Between
there.
15th and United.
United.
So
Yeah.
there
that's
are two lights.
Too much of an area.
Yeah,
is what
that's
you're
not, but that's not completely controlled, there's
Yeah.
other areas you can pull in and out of. Controlled, most of this refers to city, where there's a lot of population and there's cars and people everywhere, you can't just run out in between all the cars.
Right.
In rural county areas like this, you can't restrict them and put a crosswalk every 20 feet for them. They can just cross. and get ready to go safely.
So maybe lighting.
Yeah, just some
But that's good to
lighting.
know. I had no clue. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well, I'll put it on the list here.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's on the list.
So how long do you think that would take to get the ball rolling on that?
What's that?
How long do you
Check
think
my
that would
watch.
take to get the ball rolling on that? Would that be a matter of a couple of weeks, months? Just,
Okay, we're trying right now to do something regarding Rosamond Boulevard and Glendower and D Street. We've been dealing with that issue probably the better part of a year. We're just now getting movement toward the placing of signs and some striping and things of that nature. It hasn't happened yet. This comes on the tail of a meeting that we had with Caltrans and Kern County Roads about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So there's movement, but it's, as with anything that deals with money, it's going to take time. You have to budget for the thing and stuff like that.
We can try to set up a meeting as soon as possible, as far as that's concerned. When the actual crosswalk might happen, I know, or the lights for it, I don't know. We could get a meeting set up soon.
Yeah, start something.
yeah, no, I was just curious. I know things take time.
But yeah, within a couple of weeks, we could get a meeting set up.
Yeah, the meeting is easy. It's everything else that's hard on that. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's go ahead and move into the business meeting portion, standing committee reports. The planning committee. Just a couple of notes to pass on to everyone. Specific plan amendment number 5, map 203, which is amendment of land use, open space, and conservation element of the Rosamond specific plan as it relates to 1701 28th Street West. That hearing has been continued to the 26th of October. This one and several other items for the county got bumped so that the Kern County Planning Commission could talk about the options A and B of the cannabis zoning thing. Okay, the second item is the notice of public hearing to be held before the Board of Supervisors, and this has already been mentioned, but I'll go ahead and touch on it again. On October 24th at 9 a.m. at the chambers of the Board of Supervisors, and the subject is Kern County Cannabis Land Use Ordinance Revision to Title 19. And as John mentioned, there will be a local place in Mojave if you want to save yourself the trip to Bakersfield. As I mentioned last month, I believe seeing a lot of smiling faces in the audience pays dividends. And if you can go to Kern, to Bakersfield, I think it would be very beneficial for whatever position you take on that particular matter. Okay. Safety Committee, I don't see anything. Does anyone have anything on that? Public Health and Community Welfare?
Nothing.
Okay. Public Works Committee. This is where, for example, the thing about the crosswalks that will show up on their next meeting, and we'll track it from that point on out. Okay, there's no old business to discuss per se. We have the discuss and take possible action regarding marijuana dispensaries. I think that's coming to a head in the latter part of the month here. Discuss and take possible action regarding the 14 Freeway Rosamond Boulevard off-ramp. I haven't heard anything since the meeting, John.
As far as the Caltrans portion, I know that that was a few months putting those, I guess they're orange portions in there. I know that the double striper has still been in the shop for the county.
Okay.
As soon as that's up and running, a week or 2 weeks, they're gonna double stripe Glendower. And I know that I wasn't able to see, are the signs in yet? Are there any
I haven't
no
noticed.
crossing signs yet?
I haven't noticed.
Okay, well,
Those either.
okay. Those would only be visible, if you were crossing from, from Glendower or whatever, not, so if you're driving on Rosamond Boulevard, I don't know if you'd see them or not. you wouldn't really notice them because it'd be facing the person wanting to cross Rosamond Boulevard. But those should be going in soon if they haven't done so yet.
Can we possibly borrow a striper from some,
Let's go out there with our rollers.
I mean, I know that sounds like a silly question, but Kern County's gotta have more than one striper.
Oh, I don't know how many they have. I know it's probably a pretty big piece of equipment, but it's supposed to be up and running soon.
Okay.
So I apologize for the delay on that
Can we rent
on
one?
behalf of the county, but it's that.
Can we rent one from Carl's?
We're not gonna have rain, let's put one of those chalk lines down.
Okay, well, we'll visit that next month. Okay, Public Relations Committee. Anyone have any items for that?
Nothing at this time.
Oh, I slipped off of that.
Yeah, you went right
Actually, I
before.
went back. Discuss and take possible action regarding shoulder repair on 35th Street West. I don't think anything has happened with that. Discuss and take possible action in regard to county increase in park and recreation opportunities in Rosamond. And I'm not certain what they're looking for on that, except funding. Okay, moving to new business, discuss the park conditions at Glendower Park and discuss ways to expedite repairs and initiate needed improvements and upgrades. John, we sent you an email.
You did. I've spoken with Supervisor Scrivener and with Jeff Hill, who's with General Services, and there is that area. There's a top lot that you're referring to with the there's rubber foam tiles that I guess are going up. There are funds that the county has. I believe it's $250,000 to make repairs to top lots countywide. So that's a number of different spots, but unfortunately, from what I understand, it costs about $50,000 to fix the problem per, like that's at Glendower. So they need to rip out all of those tiles. They're gonna get one large mat that doesn't have the little, instead of tiles, it would just be one large mat. And then that bark is a special type of bark. It's I guess an ADA compliant bark. And so, right. But anyways, it's on the list of things. I don't have a time frame yet on when that's going to be able to happen, but there are funds, but it's a county-wide fund. So.
Well, on a parallel course with that, John, I sent an email to Parks about it because I wanted to get the near-term thing taken care of, which is to get those pads leveled out. They've assured me that they've asked for a work order for that.
Okay.
And
Well,
that they will move forward on that as quickly as possible. But the other part of that carries to what you're talking about. I think those little squares are just not suitable in that area because someone mentioned to me that was a problem here in Rosamond 20 years ago. That those tiles keep peeling up and stuff like that.
It's not a good design.
Okay. On item 12B, to maintain impartiality, should the RMAC be paying or not paying for membership in community organizations? We'll kind of have that open for discussion.
Was that to replace whether you guys should join the Chamber of Commerce or not?
I think what this is intended, and I kind of think it follows on the heels of a meeting that they had at RCSD, and they decided not to renew their membership in some organization. And so the various board members have applied for membership. And I think Greg has put that on here for us to determine whether we should just do a renewal for RMAC or whether the individual board members here should have their own membership to that.
You guys don't think that maybe that becomes community division? You guys aren't part of the Chamber of Commerce?
I'm sure that it's something we can end up discussing for quite some time. It falls into the area, is there potential for conflict of interest? is there a situation where one entity could be accused of supporting something that an organization is doing that may be counter to what their own stated public position is? So I'm sure that's all part of this, and I would like for Greg to be here for that discussion, so I would like to move that to next month. But it is something that has come up.
So that is to replace the last month's agenda of old business of
Yes.
joining the chamber?
Let me put it this way, maybe. I don't know if it is tied to that or not. I'm just going by the way this reads. It reads like it applies to the relationship between RMAC, RCSD, and the Chamber of Commerce, but don't quote me on that. I don't know if that is or not.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, discuss the RMAC establishing an annual Christmas toy roundup and giveaway for our December meeting. At this point, I think we just need to talk about that and see what is available that we could do.
I told you, I'm not giving up my toys.
So years ago in Rosamond, we used to have the Wells Fargo Bank, it's now the Aqua Place. And every year, Santa Claus would come and give one toy to every child in this town. Why can't we try something like that? This town will give to do that. There's plenty of
But I thought that's what the
resources.
Rotary does.
The Rotary does that? Right.
Yeah, they do the toy thing, giveaway up at the Wayside Chapel.
Oh, at Wayside, okay.
Well, that's where they house it, because they let
Okay.
us use the
Yeah,
gymnasium to do that.
It used to be done every year and everybody got together, the whole community, they do hot chocolate, cookies.
It was
the
like
whole
a
9
festival.
yards For all the kids in town. I didn't know the Rotary did that.
Yeah, we do also, Family Faith Center does that in December also. We had 300 people come, kids come last year, and the year before, and
Right.
the year before
So-
that.
But they used to do it all as a whole community would come
Correct.
together, so why couldn't we all get together and do it as a whole community event?
Correct.
Instead of each one doing individually, everybody could bring their donations and their items together and do one community event, like we used to do way back when I was little.
I would think the difficulty would be in the organization of getting all the people together and then dragging, like, here we are now in the middle of October and December's right around the corner. We already got our toys, we already got things that we need for Christmas. We don't wait the last minute, we have to get things organized at that time. But I'm with you, I'd love to get all the community together to do something like that.
I would think an activity like that would require an organization that's got 501(c)(3)
That's right.
and not a county.
And that is a
Because
big
you're
issue.
not a 501(c)(3), so
That's right.
it really wouldn't apply to that type of activity.
I
But
mean,
that doesn't mean you can't coordinate it with some other group that is a 501(c), because you're accepting donations for all the toys.
And all the churches are 501,
Right.
so
Yeah.
that again, just getting everyone to
Right.
get on the same
same
page
page.
with that. Would be
Maybe
great.
next year.
It would be great.
Well, I think that's a good point. I mean, because that's usually a nonprofit type activity. Maybe it's, they're looking at this in the aspect of just coordination, trying to ensure that we're giving all the communities, all the neighborhoods of Rosamond an opportunity at this thing. Okay, carry that on. Discuss missing signage for the Mojave Rosamond landfill. And the reason I bring that up is if you drive down the 14 North, headed to Purdy Road, there's no sign telling you where the landfill is at.
I was just gonna say, what signs?
Yeah, that's true. Really.
Okay, and there wasn't a Purdy Road sign on the northbound side until just recently. It popped back up. So
There's only one on Sierra Highway.
I don't know about that, because there you're having to get off on Sop Road, I think.
I
Yeah.
think there's a real small sign that says
Is that-
It's a little white
landfill, but I
sign.
think that's about it.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I can find it. It's that little bitty teeny tiny,
Yeah.
close to the ground.
Right.
And then I look for that long stretch of that guy
Yeah.
that's got all that stuff out there.
But that's something I'm concerned about, bringing up with the Kern County Road.
So was there a sign and it's missing, or is
I
just a
think there
lack
was
of a
I
sign?
think
There
there
was when I
was
first
at one
moved down
time.
here, because that's how I initially found it, but now there's just that little bitty sign way down at the bottom. And I think somebody accidentally just stuck it there.
Whereabouts, do you know where?
This is on the 14th,
Uh-huh. The sign
northbound.
itself? Uh-huh.
You have
These soft roads.
an intersection
highway.
sign, an intersection sign there, and it has a little small Purdy Road sign on the bottom of it now. Okay, but there's nothing else that, on that northbound side that tells you that. Now, on the southbound side, there was a sign there, and now it disappeared. So I don't know what's going on with them. They were informational signs that were, I want to say they were the blue or the green color,
Yeah.
rather than just a traffic type sign. And then, of course, you have on Sierra Highway and Sop Road, which is a backway entrance into the landfill. There's not really much there. I think there's a sign, but I don't recall seeing it myself.
But there were signs before on the 14th, and
Yeah.
they're no longer there.
And the reason why it becomes important to deal with is because there's starting to be mattresses and sofas and everything else popping up, like on the Highway 14 frontage road over here, near the development over there. I mean, it's, I think it's called not Rosamond Palms, but it's a small modular type home community right there on the corner. And then off in the bushes around that place are mattresses
Oh,
and
Santiago
stuff like that.
Estates.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it just goes, if you follow the 14 frontage road up, you'll see little spots here and there where it's being dumped. Also over on the other section of Dawn Road where it turns into a dirt road headed to Sierra Highway, that is a big dump spot. And people don't need much incentive to stop and throw things off if they can't find the landfill.
It's free.
You know, the other part of it is the landfill fees. You know, if you want people to take stuff to the dump, mattresses, old couches and everything else, you gotta find some way of relieving that fee. A pickup truck is $22. And then there's certain things they won't take there.
The landfill here in Rosamond or Mojave?
Mojave.
It's free.
For
It's
Kern
free.
County.
It's free.
If it's a pickup truck and it's got stuff that's considered to be
Commercial.
commercial,
Well,
you can't take it in without paying the $22 fee.
I just took yard clippings and stuff over there and they charged me,
Really?
yeah,
Really?
They're not supposed to.
like a week and a half ago.
They've never charged me. They're not supposed to charge me.
Because you didn't give them the golden dollar.
That's on me.
And Jack, we had a church function and I had a trailer. They charged $100 for that.
Really?
trailer.
Is this new?
Huh?
This new?
This has been within the last 3 months.
I've been told it depends who's at that shack in the front of the landfill.
They've never charged me.
I've never been charged. The only time I've been charged is to take wood back. It's construction, and they charged me $11.
Yeah, they got a sign now up on that little building there that gives you the price breakout. But you're not going to convince someone to pay, if they're using an old pickup truck and they've got a couple of mattresses in there.
They're supposed to be included in our taxes.
Yeah.
We pay for those fees. As a Kern County
Well,
resident.
we need to.
So they're charging this, something like that.
I think that falls under waste management, right, John?
As long as
Yeah,
it's personal trash
Public Works.
and not commercial
Right.
trash. Anything out of your home, they're supposed to take in there as long
Yep.
as it's not hazardous.
That's the way it has been up until recently.
Well, that's not right, because that comes out of our taxes, there's been no vote to change that. Maybe John can look into that and get us some
Yeah,
information on
find out
that.
about fees.
That's not right. 'Cause that'd have to go up for vote on our taxes if they're gonna change that. Wouldn't you think?
I would think so, but again, you know, when I talked with the lady about it, she said, no, it's been that way all along.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
That comes out of our property taxes.
Okay.
That's why it's free for Kern County residents. They're charging some, and they should be getting a tax break.
Well, yes.
On that sign you're talking of putting up, it would be nice to put the hours on it. Because they're not open all, there's 2 days.
Yeah, they've got quite a structure now on their days that the landfill is open.
Yeah.
I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays are closed.
Subject to change, right?
Yeah, subject to change, as always.
Okay, I'll write that down here. Okay. Okay, and last but not least, we need to start making up our list of areas in Rosamond where we have some problems with road conditions. For example, 35th Street West. There's probably a couple of them that I can think of that deal with, for example, the crosswalks over here that fall on the overpass for Rosamond Boulevard. Several of those places, the asphalt has kicked up. And if you're in a motorized chair, you cannot negotiate that. You have to go out into the lane of traffic and then back up, which puts them at risk. And so those are some things. And I would ask that if you have an idea of anything along those lines of areas that need work, let RMAC know, or let John know if you want to call his office direct.
Yeah, but it would be great to get a list of things.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay. Does anyone have any items for new business next month? Nope. Okay. Donna?
Nope.
David?
Just want to say thank you for those of you that kept me in prayer while I was in during my time of sickness, and I'm glad to be back.
Yay!
Glad to have you back, David.
Thank you.
Okay. Any directors have any comments?
Been fighting some health issues, so I haven't been the thorn in the side of the county and everybody else, but I'm hoping to get back soon.
John's looking forward to that.
They've been mentioning you've been very, very quiet.
Oh, yeah, I've been. It's not been
Okay.
a pleasant couple of months.
Okay, with that, I guess we're ready to adjourn the meeting. I need a motion for that.
Make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Bye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Ayes have it.